is the overall vision of this company. So, and
Okay. Uh, Good afternoon, and it's a great pleasure for me to introduce Dr. Parul, the speaker for today. Dr. Parul Rishi is a professor of human resource management and chairperson of the Center of Excellence in CSR at the Indian Institute of Forest Management for the last almost 3 decades. She is a PhD in psychology from Dayalbagh Education Institute of Agra, and she's also done her PG diploma in theology, where she was a topper. I think she's also got a gold medal to her credit. Great achiever in academics. She has authored a guiding document on CSR, a book on changing climate, changing behavior towards a better future, and also a book on environmental issues, behavioral insights. She has more than 100 publications in national and international journals. She consults on CSR project identification, CSR capacity building, need assessment, impact assessment, and her niche areas is in the areas of sustainability, behavioral transformation, and contemplative practices. Her focus is on behavioral practices for the betterment of the world. Personally, for me, I'm very happy to see her contribution on rural women empowerment. She has shared the stage with many famous people at leading events and given very powerful speeches. It's there on her LinkedIn. She is a jury member of IACA and CSR Box for evaluation of National CSR Awards conferred by the President of India. Dr. Parul's experience in HR and CSR will give us a lot of guidance on structuring and delivering the CSR projects. Ma'am, I would personally be interested in knowing the changing scenario of CSR and how should corporates really rethink the CSR projects. Over to you, Dr. Parul, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, madam, and all the members and participants present over here. I hope I am audible to all of you.
Yes, very much.
yes, ma'am.
So, as I could see from the presentation right now, that all of you have qualified the independent director test of IICA, and you are basically aspiring to join some organization as independent director. And in that process, you have engaged with various speakers and to proceed further. So I am not a person with the corporate background, frankly speaking. I am an core academician. I have been teaching corporate governance and corporate social responsibility since last more than 10 years. I am teaching these areas. Before that, I was teaching HR and other core areas of human resource management and so. So what I'm going to talk today is primarily related to CSR only, and not the hardcore financial terms, but from the social perspective. That's what I'm going to talk about. And I'll be sharing with you some of my experiences regarding evaluation of corporate organizations who applied for national CSR awards, for which I am the member of the expert committee. And since 2019, we have been doing this task. So we come across some of the best projects which corporates have taken in the field of CSR, and some of them could reach to the level of award, some of them could not, but of course we can say that these were all the best practices. Now, before I come on the domain of CSR, I just wanted to have some idea from some of you regarding whether you all have clear understanding about what CSR law is all about and how it is being practiced in the current times, and how corporates are actually executing that. If you have any enough idea about it, I won't repeat the law. Otherwise, I'll give you a brief overview of what law is all about and what is the role of board members in that law. So please help me in sharing this information, the moderator, madam.
We know the law briefly, um, to the extent of an independent director, and just to check the compliances, etc. But the interpretation of the law and how it is, how it is used in implementation is probably an area where you can throw some light for us.
Okay. One of the very important aspect within the law is, because I'm keeping it interactive, I'm not going to give any lecture. We are just sharing whatever knowledge I have. I'll be sharing with you whatever I can learn from you all. So I'll be happy to do so, because that will help my students. So primarily when we talk about law, we talk about Schedule 7, because Schedule 7 is basically the guiding source for corporate organizations to tell them what activities they can undertake under CSR and what activities they cannot take under CSR. So keeping that in mind, Schedule 7 is very important. And this Schedule 7 is closely aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals, the targets which we have to meet as a country by 2030. So there is a close alignment between Schedule 7 and Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and there are 10 broad categories within Schedule 7. And most of the activities within Schedule 7 are aligned with Sustainable Development Goals, except few, like the life underwater. That is one of the SDG, for which of course corporate organizations are not doing much. So in that way, few activities are there which are not aligned to. Otherwise, most of the activities are aligned to this Schedule 7. SDGs particularly. And within SDGs also, there are lots of interpretations that we have to draw when we are as independent director, we are the part of a board of a company. So the CSR committee will propose certain projects, CSR projects to the board. And it's the responsibility of board, including the independent directors, to evaluate and assess whether those projects are aligned to the Schedule 7 and SDGs, whether they are fulfilling the criteria that they can be the CSR project, or they are just general projects. So for that, it is very important for independent directors to know that what comes under CSR and what doesn't come under CSR. The very simple examples which we may take it up, like I evaluated one of the project for I did the impact assessment of one of the project which NHDC, National Hydropower Corporation in Bhopal. So they were running a project, and that CSR project, and that was, they had a plant, the dam. It's a hydropower company. So they had a dam, and the staff of their organization was living in the vicinity of the plant. So they had a colony called Narmadapuram, which is quite close, 4 hours from the city of Bhopal, where I'm living over here. And they have a CBSE school in their campus. And that CBSE school, the children of the employees of NHDC were studying in that particular school. At the same time, the children from outside the nearby areas were also coming over there in the campus and studying in that particular school. Now the question arises, they gave us this project for impact assessment. We visited them, and we came to know this scenario, that this school is hosting the students of their staff also. And if we go in the intricacy of CSR law, so if any activity which you are doing for the children of your own employees, that is not supposed to be booked under the CSR funding. So keeping that in mind, we just posed this question over there, and they inquired, and they were booking the complete amount which was being spent on this particular school under their CSR funding. So after impact assessment, we gave them the advice that you have to calculate per student expenditure, and you can book only that expenditure which is of the students other than their employees' children, and that too from the marginalized classes. You are just running the school for the affluent class of Khandwa, because in that particular region, CBSE school is something which everyone wants to get admission into. So many students from Khandwa proper city were also coming, because it is hardly 20 kilometers from the district Khandwa. So they were also coming and studying over there. But because the students were from the affluent classes, so those students amount can also, they can't book, because it is not, the CSR fund is meant for the marginalized caste and class groups and socio-economically backward classes. So it only for those students you have to book the expenses. So that kind of intricacies come up when you just go and see the projects of various organizations. I take another example of like Dabur is a company many of you might be knowing about. I'm just posing a question. What do you people think about? They had a plantation of amla in the Chhattisgarh, particularly in the vicinity of their plant. They had a plantation of amla, and for that they provided all support to initiate the plantation. And on revenue land particularly, that plantation was raised, village people of that particular area were involved in the plantation activity, and then the maintenance of the amla plants. And then when the plants grew further, collection of amla and was also taken care of by the marginalized communities who were living in that particular area. And then Patanjali, just all the amla which was collected by people was bought back by the Patanjali. So what is your opinion whether this activity is a qualifying activity under CSR or not?
Anyone would like to answer?
It is fundamentally afforestation. Somebody is benefiting from it, is not fundamentally acting, it's not, so it can be go as a CSR activity.
Okay, any other opinion? Somebody saying not qualifying as it's related to value chain of the company. Okay, any other opinion? One opinion that it can qualify, another opinion it cannot. So what does moderator say on this?
So I think it is just a business activity.
Okay.
It's just a
It's
business activity, and it is like employing anybody, right? I mean, when you start a factory somewhere or a business activity somewhere, you employ the local people. You don't really consider whether they are marginalized or not, right? Just availability of workforce.
There is a clearly divided opinion on this issue. I have raised this question in many forums, and I have always got the divided opinion. If we see from the perspective of afforestation, so they have done plantation on the revenue land. Okay, which is a qualifying CSR activity, as one of the member already told. So it is a qualifying CSR activity because they have done plantation on the revenue land, and all expenses which were to be made for that were just taken care of by them. On the other side, if we see from the livelihood perspective also, then also they have provided livelihood to local people who were living in that particular area and who did the plantation activity, and they got livelihood with that, and the produce that came up, so market linkages to that produce that was established by Dabur. So some people say that it is a qualifying activity because livelihood support has been provided and afforestation activity has been done. Okay, so and whatever another clique which comes into that is that the profit that is coming from that particular activity, that company cannot book in their own accounts, and they are well taking care of that also. They are buying. they are buying amla on the market rate only. So they could have bought it from any other place, but by providing livelihood to local people, they are buying amla from them. Please mute anyone.
Yeah, request you to go on mute, please. I think,
ಈ ಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಇರ್ತೈತೆ.
Manoj, can you help in muting?
Yeah, ma'am. Already I muted this. Yes, this I think.
Okay.
If anyone want to raise the question, they can raise their hand also. So we can unmute them.
Okay, so if we see from that perspective, they are providing livelihood, they are not earning any profit out of that activity. It's a part of value chain. I perfectly agree with that. But if we see the broader premise of CSR, the companies do not do any investment that is not making any business sense. So this is also a premise which we take under CSR, and CSR can be used to extract any competitive advantage. May not be the financial advantage, but for competitive advantage, CSR can definitely be used by the company. That is why the pharma companies go for the projects which are in the domain of healthcare, and the mining companies go for the afforestation and other activities which are well aligning with their business proposition. So keeping that in mind, in spite of the fact that it is aligned with their value chain, but still, if we see the schedule 7, this activity is not violating in any way any of the terms and conditions of schedule 7. So keeping that in mind, so and they are buying on the market rate that product, so at the same time they are providing employment, local employment also they are generating. Anyway, if that proposition wouldn't have been there, they would have bought amla from anywhere else. So keeping that in mind, some people say that there is no harm in that, and they can definitely book in their CSR, and it is not a violation as such of the schedule 7. However, there are difference of opinions also if we go in the technical and traditional interpretation of what is CSR and what is not CSR. Some people say that it might be the violation, but most of the responses which I have got say that such kind of activities are permissible within the CSR domain. So
I think
I'll
we
now
have a
yeah,
question
yes.
from Jyoti.
Yes, Jyoti. Is it in the
My
chat
friend,
box or speaking?
no, speaking.
Yeah, yeah.
My friend is doing a documentary on Chilka in Odisha,
Yeah.
on
Yeah, yeah.
ecology. And the Nalco is reluctant to give it under CSR. But Tech Mahindra has given such a CSR activity in Chennai. What is your opinion on whether
What exactly they are doing in Chilka?
documentary on preservation of ecology in Chilka?
Preservation of ecology in Chilka. So
Yeah.
as per schedule 7, this is a qualifying activity under CSR. They can't deny it because environment and sustainability and conservation of our water resources and wetlands and all, they can definitely be booked under CSR activity. But one click is that it should not be the duplication of any of the activity done by some other government organization. So if there is some government organization, the wetland authority of that particular state or district or any other government body which is already taking care of the restoration and conservation of Lake Chilka, then it will not be a qualifying activity. But if no such body exists and the water body is in a bad shape and requires conservation, and no other corporate body is also has also taken up any CSR project for that restoration work, then definitely it can be booked under schedule 7. So my answer will depend on whether any other government body is responsible for doing that and doing it already or not.
Okay, thank you.
Madam, then use of self-help groups
Yeah.
for creating some of our products, etc., also will come under CSR that way?
See, if the government or any other body has not created self-help groups in that particular area and you are the first one to initiate that activity, it is a qualifying activity under CSR because it is promoting rural livelihood
Okay.
and women empowerment both. So it is a qualifying activity. Got it?
Okay.
Okay, so let me share broadly some of, I'll be just giving you an overview of law so that if you have any, if you need any clarification in any of the dimensions, you can just ask me from that perspective. I got this clarification in the first-hand manner with Dr. Bhaskar Chatterjee, who was the then director of Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, who actually drafted this law. And I'm closely working with Dr. Bhaskar Chatterjee in various forums. And recently we addressed a Coal India conclave in Ranchi. Dr. Bhaskar Chatterjee and myself, we shared the dais in one of the panel. And yes, somebody has a question, please, before I proceed.
Yeah,
Chandrasekhar.
Professor.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
Can I? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
I'm giving you a case scenario, like
Yeah.
a software company which
Mhm.
is providing, say, digital lending software
Mhm.
to a bank or to a microfinance company.
Mhm.
And the objective is the microfinance company is providing, obviously, like the digital lending is enabled for the rural poor. So the objective is like the poverty alleviation, it is helping because of the financial inclusion that is happening. Now, from both perspective, rather individual perspectives of the corporate, a software company, can the software company say like, because their solution being used where the one of the SDG goals are being met, can they say like, okay, though it is a commercially, it is chargeable solution, something like, can they say like their efforts are towards promoting SDG? And similarly from the microfinance company, in that case, can they say like, because they are providing it, can they claim that their efforts are towards the SDG?
See, towards SDG, it is correct. We can say, but not for CSR. If we are any profit earning activity in any manner cannot be booked under CSR. And if you are earning any profit out of it, that profit will be over and above the 2% of the profit before tax that you have to spend on CSR. So keeping that in mind, it is an activity in good faith. It is an activity which is contributing to achievement of sustainable development goal or agreed. But the money that is being taken from that cannot be booked under the CSR activities. Because if you are directly providing that free of cost, if you are providing that software to microfinance company and they are using it for digitalization at the rural level, in that case, we can say that it can be booked under CSR because they are helping in promotion of digital literacy or whatever you may say. In that case, it is okay. But if you are charging anything, uh, either you should not charge, or if you are charging, you cannot book it under your CSR. But
Yeah,
contribution to SDG is there, no doubt about it.
yeah. The question was on SDG only, but is it
Yeah.
applicable for both the cases? The microfinance company as well as the software company, can both of them say like their goals are towards achieving the SDG objectives?
They are both aligned towards sustainable development goals only, because achievement of sustainable development goals, you can't say that one can achieve in isolation. These are the concerted activities of different organizations taken together. Like a corporate organization is also contributing to CSR by generation of rural livelihood under their CSR funding. At the same time, the district magistrate of that district is also initiating lot of CSR, lot of developmental activities for generation of livelihood. So both are working in the same district and both are converging towards achievement of sustainable development goals. No doubt about it. So that
Okay,
is
Professor.
possible.
Thank you.
So
I
should I
think
give you an overview?
Yeah, I think
Chandrasekhar had
one more question.
Yeah.
Sure.
Questions are always good.
Chandrasekhar,
Good afternoon, Professor.
Chandrasekhar Dixit.
Yeah,
Yes,
good
yes.
afternoon, Professor.
Good
Well,
afternoon.
I had a question in the same line that Mr. Uma Shankar had asked. The software companies or any corporates that go to the government schools and conduct CSR activities. Well, you also mentioned that if there is any other body that is already providing a similar service, then it cannot be accounted under CSR. But we have corporates going to government school, providing books, providing any kind of stationaries to the students, or any kind of materials to the school, which the government body is also providing, and may not be at a larger scale, but whatever limits that they can. So how is this accounted under CSR?
So it will definitely account under CSR. I had the opportunity of evaluating few schools in the Nuh district, which is very commonly in news these days. Nuh district of Nuh area in Mewat district of Haryana, where SRF Foundation was taking a lot of in educational initiatives in that particular area. They had a mobile science laboratory, the physics laboratory, the chemistry laboratory, the biological laboratory. So they were all the mobile laboratories in a particular van, which they specially created with all the digital infrastructure and all. And they used to rotate from one school to another to provide, and with the digital literature and all, along with the mentor who used to help them show digitally how various experiments are conducted, because that facility cannot be created over there. So the law says that you cannot do duplication of any of the activity which is already being done by government or any other organization, but you can do supplementation of the activities. So it comes under supplementation. You are not duplicating the things which are already there. So that the building is there, you can improve the infrastructure, you can do the interior, you can provide add-on the educational material and infrastructure, you can have the RO facility for water of the student, you can provide all material, educational material to them, you can have the mobile scientific lab, as I've already told you. So complementation and supplementation of activities is permitted, but not duplication. So if the school is already there, you cannot open another school in that particular area, but you can do value addition to that particular school. The similar project was undertaken. It's a very famous project. If you go on the website, you will be able to see of the Vedanta group, and that is known as the Nandghar project. And that Nandghar project is nothing but value addition to the already existing Anganwadis in different villages. So Anganwadis have been instituted by government. That is a government concept. But what is the status of those Anganwadis? Many of us very well know about that. I have been to
Yeah.
a lot of villages and all.
Yes.
I've seen that. So the status of Anganwadi is they are in a very, very primitive situation. So Vedanta took an initiative to upgrade those Anganwadis with the digital infrastructure, the screens, connected them with lot of very good educational material which can be digitally provided from different places. And the same Anganwadis, when the children go home after 12 o'clock, the period of Anganwadi was from 9 to 12 or something like that. From 2 o'clock onwards, the same Anganwadis and the same digital infrastructure was used for employment generating traits related training to the women of that particular village. So they were serving the dual purpose of Anganwadi in the morning and same infrastructure for vocational training to rural women. So in that manner, very beautifully painted with a lot of, I evaluated Nandghar also for National CSR Award, and they won also National CSR Award for that. So, but they cannot just have another Anganwadi if the Anganwadi is already existing. They can do value addition to that. But in the villages where there was no Anganwadi, there are not 100% villages are having Anganwadis. So in the places where no Anganwadi was there, then they created a civil structure and upgraded it and ensured that there is no difference in the standard of Anganwadi of the one which they have upgraded or which they have created themselves. So in this manner, duplication and supplementation and complementation is
lecture online.
Okay,
not
got it. Got it, Professor. Thank you. There's one more question, if I may ask.
Sure.
Mr. Chandar
कोई भी देख सकता है ना
Gurnani.
Somebody has
तो
to
मैं भी
be muted.
Please mute.
Yeah, thank you. So, in the process or the approach that the corporates have to take in terms of implementing these CSR activities, they find a mediator or an implementer, such as NGOs.
Yes.
So, when they come to NGOs, off the track or may not be in the books, they promise certain percentage of commission to those NGOs for implementing these. So does these activity come under the law? Because I am part of a spiritual trust. I'm a trustee and a secretary there. And there are corporates who have come and approach because we are registered under providing receipt for ATG. So they come and approach, give us opportunity to retain a certain commission, a percentage of commission, and then implement it in their name. So how is this approach done? And every corporate does it, I believe.
See, commission, of course, is not permissible at all, and it can never be permissible under law. But all corporate organizations have to get their projects implemented by the companies which are registered under Section 8. So, or the NGOs or whatever may be. Right now, it is mandatory that all implementing agencies, whether they are the foundations of a company like the Reliance Foundation is there, the ONGC Foundation is there, Wipro Foundation is there. So either they should be registered as Section 8 company, or they should be the body of a central, some of the central or state government organization. So like IIFM, Indian Institute of Forest Management, so ours is a central government organization. So we are not a Section 8 company, but we are authorized to help corporate organizations implement some of their CSR projects in the domain of expertise which we have. So if you want to have a plantation project implement, CSR project in plantation project implemented at some place, so we have the expertise. We can guide you what type of plantation you should do. We can help you engage with the forest departments of that particular area to locate a particular land on which forest department is looking forward to have afforestation activities. That kind of support, definitely we can do that. Okay, but these commissions and all, they can never be booked in law. And another condition is that to avoid the duplication of CSR activities, all corporate organizations these days, they have to connect with the district administration and take the list of what are the projects which are already doing and get their CSR project registered with district administration, so that district administration is aware of who is doing what in their district, and no similar projects are undertaking in the same place. There is no duplication of projects. Otherwise, multiple companies will come and stand up. We are also doing educational interventions. We are also doing educational interventions. But how educational interventions of X and Y are different? So that you have to tell. So that is something which is very important. There is another important thing which you all should know is regarding the CSR 1 registration, which has been recently started in 2021. So all implementing bodies, including IIFM, as a central government and state government bodies, so they all have to get themselves registered under CSR 1. So this registration is actually done through chartered accountant, and the basic form you have to fill on your own. So after registration only you will become eligible to execute or implement any of the CSR project of the company. And this has been started just to exclude this kind of scenario which you are talking about, and that you have to indicate your build up capital and all financials. You have to indicate what are the similar projects that you have done. So all that information you have to give into that, so that the government is sure that any organization which is implementing the project is a reputed and credible body, and avoid such kind of petty commission business which was going on. So this is from my side.
Madam.
Excellent, ma'am. This has been very
uh,
useful information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Madam, I have a question. You mentioned that the CSR projects have to be registered with the district administration. Is there some formal process to do this?
See, it's basically district administration is considered as a coordinating body. So it's not something to create hurdle in the work of the corporate organizations, but it is just a coordinating body. So whomsoever is going to implement that project is expected to engage with the district administration, because they'll be moving in that particular district. So it's not a formal and regulatory kind of system which is there, but it is an advisory kind of thing that they have to approach the district administration and check with them that no similar project is first check no similar project is existing in the domain in which they are trying to take up that project, and second, district administration knows that you are there to do some kind of developmental activities, so that district administration on their own is also not duplicating, because many of the developmental projects are similar in nature. So okay, this particular area, this corporate is doing, this particular this is doing, this area nobody is doing, so let government put their efforts on that particular domain. So
Okay.
their role is coordinating in nature.
Okay.
Okay, so any other question, or I think it's moving good without PPT. PPTs, we all are fed up of looking at PPTs. So if you have some other questions, it's fine. Otherwise, I'll just give you an overview of some of the things which are relevant for you. I'll just skip certain parts, and because we don't have much time. So this part, I think most of you know about. Net worth of 500 crore and turnover of 1000 crore, like that. So you can just read it anywhere. And role of CSR committee, I would like to just highlight that every company will have to have their own CSR policy. And the policy committee will just draft the CSR policy, in which they will indicate what are the activities as specified in Schedule 7, which they have to take it, and how much amount or expenditure they are going to incur on those activities. And they have to monitor the CSR policy from time to time. Means CSR policy is never static. In one year you decide that your focus will be on health and sanitation, another year you can just decide that now I am just going to focus on not health and sanitation but some allied activity to that, or rural empowerment, livelihood, or whatever the case may be. So you can just align your company's business with the CSR policy. But generally it is expected that the basic premise of CSR policy that you are taking, that should align with your normal business proposition. Like if you are a mining company, the major funds should go towards the you are doing a lot of destruction to the rehabilitation of people who have to move from the paid area from where mining activity is going on. I recently did a project in of Aditya Birla Group, that was the need assessment for the baseline survey of Singrauli project, where the coal mine was going to start. So in such kind of things, it is important that your activities should align with your business proposition. Not necessary that a healthcare pharma company will have 100% fund allocation to the healthcare projects only, but a major part of it should ideally go towards healthcare, because that aligns with your business proposition, and that will give you competitive advantage also. While for the other projects, like if there is some in Uttarakhand flash floods are coming up, or there is a landslides in Himachal, so for such kind of activities also you can definitely put your CSR funds. Now, what is CSR and what is not CSR is something which is in front of you, which you can see. Like anything, whatever you are doing in CSR should be rupee measurable. If you are doing any activity for promotion of a particular product or something, so if that cannot be measured in rupee, that cannot qualify under CSR. Like you are having a marathon on World Environment Day. So that marathon is a one-time activity, and that is good to promote your brand visibility and all these things. But that cannot be booked under CSR. The prizes that you are giving under marathon, that cannot be booked under CSR. It must bring direct benefits to marginalized, disadvantaged, poor, or deprived section of community. So anything which you are doing, like if you want to establish a park in the urban city like Bhopal, in the posh locality, that won't qualify under CSR, because the intention of that park is not for the marginalized communities. But at the same time, if in a rural area of or in the slum areas, if you are hosting a small park, if you are building a small park where there are some jhulas and all these facilities and some gym equipments you have funded for that, so, and that is particularly in the slum area, you are doing all these things, so that can be booked under CSR. So the basic intent is very important, that your activity, the fund that you are putting in, that should benefit the marginalized, disadvantaged, poor, or deprived section of society. It should not benefit only the employees of the company and their families. So we can't say that if the school that they opened in Narmadapuram, the CBSE school, so they can do that. They can have a common activity. They can have a park in which their children are also playing and children from deprived classes are also playing. That is fine. But employee benefits will not count as CSR, but HR. So all these activities are the part of HR. Then CSR activities must be in the form of projects and programs, not the one-time activities that you just had hosted one marathon and then you kept quiet. No, it can't go like that. If you are just doing pure philanthropy or you are doing just donations, so that also don't count under CSR. You can only provide fund to government designated funds specially created, like the PM Care Fund for COVID, which was created, or Prime Minister Disaster Relief Fund, or there are many other funds also which can be booked under CSR. So there are designated funds in which you can do donations. But CSR activities should be in the project mode. Then corporates are expected to fund projects from their own accounts through implementing agencies. We have already discussed about implementing agencies. Funds and monies deposited in central and state government account will not count in CSR. Now there is an amendment in that. You must be knowing there was a punishment clause in CSR which was quite criticized. Also, corporate organizations said that at one side we are just doing CSR, at the other side, if we are not able to do, you are saying that you can even be jailed. So that is too much. So keeping that in mind, there is a recent amendment in which the companies, if there is an unspent amount, and that kind of scenario happened a lot during the COVID period, particularly when corporate organizations were not able to complete the project because of the lockdown restrictions and all those things. So there a lot of unspent money was left out, and then corporates were worried, what should we do of that money? Some of them put that money into PM Care Fund, but some were facing problems in doing that. So keeping that in mind, they had a new rule in which they have indicated that if there is an unspent amount at the end of third year, there is a block of 33 years. If in 1 year your amount is unspent, you can transfer in the second year's budget in addition to the profit before tax of the next financial year. At the end of second year also, if something is unspent, so the remaining amount of year 1 plus year 2 will go to year 3. But if in year 3 also your amount remain unspent, and because of some reason you are not able to spend the complete amount and you don't want to put it in the PM Care Fund, so the government has given the guidelines that it can be deposited in the state and central government specially created fund for that particular amount. So you'll open an account and you will put that money in that particular account, and that state government can use for execution of various developmental projects. So in that way, they are safeguarded from being jailed, but they have to part with that particular amount, which was the eligible amount for CSR spending. They can't in any case keep that account with them. Then government programs, we have already discussed, they can be complemented and supplemented, they cannot be duplicated. Project and programs should be within India and not outside India. And they should be independent of compliance with any regulation or law, and activities which are in compliance with any other regulation or law, they won't count as CSR. Like in the mining areas, where they have to do a lot of activities under their R&R, rehabilitation and resettlement and rehabilitation. So that is another law under which they have to do all these activities. So they cannot say that they can book that amount under their CSR activities, because if they are having a mine in that particular area, so people have to be rehabilitated and resettled in the alternative place, and all expenditure which will involve in that particular process, that company will have to pay for, but not under CSR, because that is the compliance of another R&R law and not the CSR law. So this was all about what I wanted to say, and some more questions if you have, we can do that. I'll show you just one more model. This is the implementation process of CSR, how we proceed step by step. Like we start with the CSR strategy formulation or policy formulation, then we operationalize the institutional mechanism, we identify the team, we go for capacity building, we identify the implementing agency, we conduct the due diligence that whether the company is capable of doing that task within a given period of time and the quoted amount which they have told or not. So another example coming in my mind, when NHDC approached us, so for the impact assessment of one of the studies, so they indicated that they had a very promising project in which they, because public sectors, it is compulsory for them that they have to go for tender process. So EOIs they just give, and then you have to just quote the amount in which you will be able to do that money. So one of the NGO quoted a very low amount for doing the project, which was around 20 to 25 lakhs. However, NHDC's assessment for that project to be completed was 1.25 crores. So, but because they gave quoted the lowest price, so NHDC was not having any other option but to give that project to them. And the very promising and credible bodies who wanted to do that project couldn't get it, and the result was that they quoted, they got the project, but they were not able to do that. They initiated some part of that project, but later on they surrendered and they said that we are returning you all the money, we are not able to do that. As a result, NHDC was in soup, because it was the end of financial year, lot of time those particular people, they just eat it up. huh? And then they said we can't do it, and then NHDC has to report why the project could not be completed. And the money also came back to them, and they have to anyway show the compliance that we have already spent 2% of the profit before tax. So it was very difficult for them. They gave the explanation that they will be doing it in the next year because of this reason, because that was there in the law, that if you are not able to spend 2%, you have to give the reason why you couldn't do that, and that reason should be justifiable. So they justified the reason and did that, and later on they had the policy that they will go for the due diligence, that whether that organization has done similar projects in the past, what is their report, how credible they are, and all these things that was included in the process. Then project development, DPR is to be prepared. Then after that, clear identification of CSR budget. Then project is to be approved. Insertion of approved projects in the policy. Then finalization agreement with the implementing agency. Then project implementation starts and its documentation, monitoring at board level and sub-board level. Then its evaluation by third party when the project is completing, like we people do the project impact assessment. IFM is the certified agency for doing the impact assessment of various CSR projects. And after the impact study is done, finally, they have to prepare the reporting format and they have to place it on open source, that these are the activities under CSR that we have done. So this is how this flow chart indicates how CSR activities are actually undertaken by organizations, including the role of CSR committee as well as the role of board for approval of the CSR policy and the CSR projects and the impact assessment report. So all these are basically the responsibilities of board members. So you should know how impact assessment is done. You should know how need assessment is done, because everything will come to you in the board, which you have to approve. That it has been done by the credible body and it has been seriously executed and the project is impactful. All those final comments you have to do on, you have to give on all those things if you are the independent director. So with this, I'm just closing my session. I was given 45 minutes and I have taken a little more than that, but I'm still open for some questions if you.
There is a question. 5% can be spent on administrative cost. In case company appoints a consultant to manage, will the fees paid to them qualify as admin cost?
Capacity building and administrative cost taken together should be 5%. So whatever they want to pay to that consultant, that should come within 5% of their CSR spend. But they can definitely book it into that.
Okay.
One
Any other?
question. Yeah. Is with the expansion of ESG happening, is it likely
Yes.
that in the days to come, CSR is going to subsume into the ESG? And what are the clear-cut like demarcations we have to see CSR space, SDGs goals, and the ESG, we're expanding ESG?
See, these are all overlapping things. The social and governance, social part, particularly in ESG, closely aligned to CSR only. I recently took a keynote address in United Ways of Hyderabad, and that was on ESG only, where this kind of issues were discussed in depth. And Dr. Bhaskar Chatterjee was also there with me. So he was the people who are the promoters of CSR. They say that ESG is all eyewash, nothing like that. But the promoters of ESG say that CSR is going to be subdued. But I consider that they have their different perspectives. So ESG, the purpose of ESG is different. The purpose of ESG is different. The purpose of ESG is basically to enhance the image of the company, to have more investment. It is basically aligned to the investments, ESG. Because if you are an ESG rated company, so you may be getting the soft loans, you may be getting the investment will be higher, your share value is going to enhance. So such kind of direct alignment in CSR we are not able to see, because the purpose of CSR is developmental in nature, and the purpose of ESG is the company's face value enhancement and all these things, and attracting investment and all these things, they are in nature. So in that way, although they are closely aligned, but when we talk about SDG stands in between ESG and sustainable, ESG and CSR. CSR activities are aligned to SDGs, and ESG's environmental domain and social and governance, they are also aligned with SDGs. So SDG is at the center stage, and both have different purposes, but the thread line is common, that we are trying to do something for the society, for the growth and development of people who are not naturally able to get their fair share.
Sure. Thank you.
Any other questions from others?
Okay, so if there is no question, I'll thank all of you for giving me this opportunity and interacting with the all of you. It was really a pleasure with all, each and every question. It adds to my curve of learning, and I consider it highly beneficial, and hope we'll be connecting further. And I'm always there for any kind of support you people require. And if you want me to specifically guide you for certain things, you can just write an email to me. Maybe madam is having the email, she can share, or I can just write over there in the chat box.
If you can also share your slide deck, it will be great.
Yeah, the recording will be available on our YouTube channel. So I'll be sharing the link to you.
Okay, please share the link with me
Okay.
also.
Yeah, sure,
For
ma'am.
my records. Yes.
Yeah. I'll be uploading today or tomorrow. Then I'll share the link. So I think any question? Anyone want to ask?
We had questions right from the first sentence, so I think everything is
that's
exhausted for the time
yeah.
being.
Still anything is there, you can connect. So
Sure,
you can
sure.
send to us. We will send to madam and we'll get you the right
My
way
email
out
is
for that.
already there. You can even directly
Yeah.
write me, no problem.
Yeah, that's also. So then we have the thank you, madam. So it's a great pleasure. The session was very insightful. Dr. Rupali is not there. She's traveling. So she's not there in the session. But again, I'd like to thanks on behalf of ERVR management. And we hope we'll connect again. Today there was less participant, but still you manage well. That's good. And again, thank you. Thanks from entire team. And thanks to audience. Be connected. We'll have a session in the end of this month on finance, right? So get connected. So thank you, Vijayalakshmi ma'am.
Thank you.
Anything
Thank
from
you.
your end? You can speak.
Yeah. Thank you. And especially on this topic, the ESG and CSR, sometimes it's very confusing and we don't know, what fits where. And we are supposed to report on ESG, etc. Sometimes we think CSR is only a way of enabling the ESG is what we think. I think this is a subject of, continuous querying and doubt clarification, I think, at least in the next couple of years. Thank you, madam. Thank you. And
Thank
sure,
you.
we will get in touch with you for our clarifications.
Thank you so much. I'll now exit.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Thank you, madam. Yeah.
Thank you, Manoj. I think we can.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam.